Welcome to another video where I try to illustrate the basic concepts of what an urban village will look like. Keep in mind, this is a custom concept and every house or area of a city will be a little different due to the infrastructure they have, what skills the people within it possess, and where in the world they might be. Different cultures, geography, and resources will change the image a bit from one place to another. But at the core, it doesn't matter who you are or where you live. These same principles will be the same no matter where you go. Size would be a very important point to start with. I'll be working with Dunbar's theory to base this off. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar possessed a cognitive limit to the number of people with whom one can maintain a social relationship with. Based off his research, humans can comfortably maintain about 150 or so stable relationships. A few will be where you have close, intimate relationships with. A dozen more will be your family and best friends. Some 50 will be your friends and work colleagues, people you generally bump into on a daily basis. Another 100 or so people are acquaintances. You know them by first name and don't consider them to be a stranger. Dunbar's theory even has been unintendedly followed by architectural design for as long as we've been building, particularly housing. This trend unfortunately correlates with wealth. Wealthy people that live close to each other tend to cluster in smaller group sizes of approximately 50 or less. The middle class people cluster well within the 150 members, and poor people are often living in areas with too many neighbors they don't know. I wonder if crime rates in low-income communities are higher because nobody knows each other well enough to trust one another to the point where opportunities to criminally exploit one another for gain is a factor. Debates on the number range between about 100 and 250, and this is where I believe the average sized village should be. Any more and we lose congruence within our members to act together for a mutual benefit. So what about the urban village? Well, we have to start with what we got. We just don't have the resources to wipe a city clean and start fresh to make a perfect little urban villages. So this is where you're going to have to get to know your neighbors and discuss where one village should start and another begin. A collection of villagers will form a community, and within this community there will be a small local government to discuss how to regulate resources so we can all benefit from a larger society. I intend to learn and craft a recipe with real-life examples over time. But till that time, we need to start somewhere. And that process is still going to be discussed, tried, and experimented with to iron out all the kinks. Rome was not built in a day. So let's try to illustrate some examples. But just before we do that, what components do we need each village to have? Food security. I don't expect villagers to grow 100% of their food, but be mostly independent from and with their surrounding communities. Using technology like aquaponics to grow year-round with traditional seasonal gardens to grow our food from is essential. I'm sure when we talk about the local community, different villages will specialize in crops or services and together create a market of goods to be traded amongst one another for food diversity and interest. What comes in must come out. You've probably heard of the 3 R's: recycle, reduce, and reuse. But we're going to be adding 2 more R's: refuse and repair. Each village will have its own mini recycling and waste assortment area. This will be combined with a storage shed where we can store scraps and odds and ends to be reused in the future. We will break down our waste into some 30 different categories so that a collector can come by and collect pre-sorted resources. The most expensive part of recycling centers today is sorting, and in most cases what can't be cheaply sorted just gets sent to the landfill. And the best part is, this stuff has value and could potentially be sold, being a minor revenue stream for the village. Shops and maintenance will become more effective. Did it snow overnight? We will have the right tools and procedures to handle it effectively ourselves without expensive government management. Each village will have even a decent shop, something bigger and more complete than the average household garage. Imagine what tools a village would be able to invest in if the village incorporates 30 homes. We don't need 30 lawnmowers, or even 30 different sets of many common household tools. We can then invest in quality tools and collectively agree to take care of them so they last a long time, reducing the need to demand on the marketplace that we know of today to produce cheap things that do break easily and need to be tossed and replaced often. There won't be a need for fences within a village. Well, unless it's to keep the animals contained. We definitely will be keeping our perimeter fences to keep wildlife such as deer out, as well as strangers. This will open up a lot of space we can plan for production and utility. And of course, we will have designated social areas, outdoors as well as indoors, for eating and entertainment. Speaking of keeping our animals contained, some villages will likely have their own chicken coops, and the ones that don't have the proper space will rely on trade from other villages that have larger chicken coops to supply them with their eggs and poultry. I also imagine rabbits and fish from our aquaponics system will replace cattle and pigs as our primary source of animal protein. In fact, between the shops, garden spaces, and however the villages configure themselves to benefit the greater community at large, there will be plenty of small business opportunities to cover all aspects of business that we're already familiar with. We will need daycares, schools, accountants, various trades and professions we are already accustomed to. The big difference is these businesses will be family owned and operated. There won't be monopolies or large corporations that peg us all as being a number on their spreadsheets. We don't need Fortune 500 companies. Will this economy be a little slower in comparison to what we're accustomed to today? Yes, but we don't have a choice. I will address our global energy problem in a later video, but to sum up a point, the world is going to slow down whether we like it or not. We might as well embrace it and prepare for today so that when tomorrow comes, it won't sting so bad. This will mean a larger portion of our time will be spent on food production, more time taking care of the house and the village. Full-time work will still exist, but most work as we know it will be part-time. Part-time working at home, part-time working outside the home. More time will be spent with family and friends, and more time doing things that matter. Our consumption economy is not working. It's not healthy. It can't last, and we don't need it. So let's look at a couple of hypothetical examples. Keep in mind, as of the time I wrote this, there are no other parties involved in the decision making of this. This is purely to illustrate a thought process and to show you what I have in mind. My first example will be a very small block consisting of just 5 homes on a bit larger than an acre of land. The second example will be a condo complex consisting of 34 units.
Alright, so I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can. This is a satellite image view of the block that I'm talking about. This has 5 houses on it and is approximately a little over an acre in size. This is just a cleaned up image for you to see. Now right now, currently, this is where the rough fence lines are, where the property lines are. Obviously there could be some fences around the exterior of all this, but this is kind of how we have this block divided. Now what I strongly suggest is we remove all those interior fences and put them to the exterior. This will prevent animals from wandering in, as well as people and strangers, and really essentially secure our village and our property and the stuff that we have on it. This place does not have a shop or a recycling center or any storage area, so we're going to have to put something in here. I also use this as an example with 2 entrances or exits. Every village is going to have its own gardens, greenhouses, and whatnot, aquaponics systems. So this is just sort of a rough outline for the space that would be really good for that. I think every village should have its own protein source or be able to sustain themselves well enough. Even if it's just the sort of basics, we can obviously trade for other things. But I'm going to use chickens as an example because they can lay eggs for us, and quite possibly, we can have our turkeys in there as well for our special treats. And I'm just going to plunk this down here in the back end corner. I've looked around this area, and there's really a lot of space for a chicken coop area. So don't let this map fool you in thinking this is like a small little nook. It's plenty of space to get things done. And then, of course, we need an entertainment area. This will vary from village to village. This is entirely up to you guys. Some people will leave it grass. Maybe others will put in a swimming pool. Other people maybe a playground area for the kids. It could be a garden area. Like whatever you guys want, you do it. Now let's step it up a bit to I think it's like a 32 or a 34 unit condo complex, and we'll clean it up a bit. This is actually about 2 acres in size, so this is about twice the size of the previous example, but obviously more people are living on it. There's an exterior fence and only one entrance and one exit. And right now, this is for all the exteriors, mostly like parking lots. And we would repurpose that into like gardens and stuff. What's really cool is because of the cement, it already has a foundation, which would be great for getting started on greenhouses. So imagine that with that. Now, with a larger area, we'll have a bigger area to put the chickens and the animals and whatnot. That building is actually like an undercover sort of parking garage, but I don't think it has any walls or anything like that. But we'll repurpose that into a barn and allow them some outside area to really roam about. We want happy animals if we're going to eat them, and like why not, right? Let's take care of everybody inside the village, including our food. Another quick little illustration example of this is why not repurpose all the roofs. Now this is not a 3D map, so I'm not going crazy with this, and I'm just going to illustrate that this could be potential garden space, or it could even be set up with solar panels or even other sort of things. Anyway, I'll get to that in future videos. And of course, this place does not have a shop, so I'm thinking like a shop, a recycle center, a little storage area would go up by the entrance would make the most sense. And this area currently has a courtyard, which is kind of nice. And I don't know, I just figured I'll just call it entertainment, do what you want with it. But who knows? It may have to be repurposed into a garden center, just seeing how there's that many people living on such a relatively small piece of property. But I think there's a lot of potential in this property, so I think that's pretty cool.
So as you can see, there's a lot of detail to be figured out by the members of any new village. What gets put where could be different, and even as time goes, things might change around a bit to make things more effective. So I hope this video helps paint a picture of what I'm trying to achieve. I'm sure it raises more questions than it answers. I have a ton of videos to produce to fit this all together, so have patience as I assemble this puzzle together for you piece by piece. In future videos, I will address how we can afford this and how we can build this to last hundreds of years. The importance of keeping families of all ages together, from our kids to our great-great-grandparents. Retirement homes are barbaric. We need to keep our families together. I also intend to address why marriages fail and how we can improve our species procreation strategy for both short and long-term benefits beyond our lifetime. But it won't stop there. The urban village and our neighboring communities will reform our education system, toss out corrupt political systems, and prevent or minimize the system that feeds on or enslaves people for the benefit of the rich. The urban village will divide the economic wealth amongst its members and minimize the gap between the rich and the poor. We're going to toss out Wall Street and say no to centralized banks and big governments. We're going to take back what's ours. How? Stay tuned and I will show you how. Till then, have yourself a wonderful day.